Hi, my name is Jordan Biggs. I'm here today to talk about Portugal and their economy, and as an investor, things that you would want to know when going over there to have a meeting. So, things we're going to touch on are Portuguese business customs that might surprise Americans, or things that you wouldn't be familiar with. Um, the economy there and industries that are, headed up and which ones are headed down. And then we'll also talk about the future and what it looks like and what things are going to be taking shape for them. So the first thing to remember whenever you set up a meeting with Portugal for the first time is it typically takes 3 to 5 weeks to set something up. So it's good, don't think that they're ignoring you or anything like that. It just does take a while for them to get everything set up. So once you have set it up though and you have your meeting for the first time, the first thing everyone does obviously is introduce themselves, and then some companies distribute business cards and things like that. And then after all this is done and everyone's met each other, everyone sits down and for 5 or 10 minutes just talk and get to know each other and just gain some background information on who you are. And this is because in Portugal they really value personal relationships in all aspects of life, and this really includes business. So practices like nepotism over there are even looked at as a good thing because they know that they're doing business with someone they can trust, and that that person won't hurt the company out of personal gain. They know that they do have that personal relationship, and they know who that person is, and that they're trustworthy or not. So whenever you do meet for the first time, that's when this personal relationship begins to form, and there's a lot of ways that you can kind of help that and help it grow in a positive way. And one of those is to learn a little bit of Portuguese before you go over there. So when you do that, it shows them that you care and that you took the time to sit down and learn something about them instead of just expecting them to already be fluent in English and the whole meeting take place in English. It just shows a little bit of a courtesy, and it goes a long way with them. So after you've had these meetings and you've gotten your foot in the door with some companies over there, the next thing you want to know is what the future looks like for Portugal in terms of industries. So everyone knows that this past summer there was a big financial crisis in Europe, and that several countries received bailouts from the EU. One of these countries was Portugal. And obviously if they received a bailout, it can't be doing that well over there, and it's reflected in a lot of their numbers. Unemployment for 2014 or 2013, is projected to go up to 14%, and right now their deficit is over 10%. But in their bailout they received, there were stipulations that they came along with it to help them take steps to begin to cut that deficit and get it back onto a manageable percentage. So that's something that they're working on, and they really do want to achieve. And that's the main problems they're having right now: unemployment and that huge deficit. So despite all that, one of the industries that has still been a stable and steady success for them is the renewable energy industry. And the EU has a plan to have all their countries produce 20% of the country's electricity usage by 2020 through renewable methods. And this is something that Portugal really has taken the lead on, and they've already achieved this 20% goal. And their own personal plan has them producing 31% of their country's electricity through renewable resources by 2020. So something like that the government, even in Portugal, supports is a good thing to get on, because that's something that they are not going to let die out despite the bailout and things that have been problems in their economy. So I brought a few graphs for everyone to look at. This is a graph of the imports that Portugal imports by product, and they just kind of group them into different products. The red one is oil, and just the normal things that even Americans import. This one is imports by country, and most of the countries on here are European. One is China; it's the only one that's not. Yeah, the United States isn't even on here, but it is expensive for them to ship things all the way across the sea when they could just go to a country in Europe and get the exact same thing. This one is the one that investors most often look at. This is called financial direct investment, and it shows which sectors investors just directly invest in and where they put their money. So it breaks it down to 7 or 8 different sections for you to look at. So after you've examined all these and you've got, begin to develop some personal relationships and you know things about the Portuguese economy, the next thing you want to do is make sure you know the things to avoid about the Portuguese economy. Some individuals over there take advantage of that personal relationship and that trust that they develop with companies and use it to legal means to engage in tax evasion or money laundering or things like that. And a scandal broke in 2009 where that had been happening, and it was within multiple companies all throughout Portugal. It involved multiple industries and even went down to some of the famous soccer players over there. The prime minister, whose name was Jose Socrates, was even involved and is still set to be on trial for his involvement and his role in that. And then there's a branch of the European Union that's called the Eurojust, and there was a Portuguese citizen on there, or the Portuguese judge. There's one from each country, and the Portuguese judge on there had been accused of pressuring reporters who were reporting about this scandal, and they'd been reporting the current prime minister of Portugal in a negative light and talking about how he had been involved. And this man on the Eurojust pressured these reporters to either not report the story or change their words or report it in a different light, and he was even caught for that. So there is a lot of things in Portugal, especially right now with their economic times, that are going to make it hard for them and make it difficult for them. That's a beginning guide, and if you are going to still want to do things like and go over to Portugal and see if there are any opportunities you might be interested in, you want to remember those points that we talked about, and that the Portuguese really do value personal relationships in business, and they often prefer those or personal relationships. So whenever you do conduct those first couple business meetings, make sure that you are working on that and you're conscious of that with what you say and how you act, so that in the future you guys can have a mutually benefiting relationship. And make sure you take a look at data to know which sectors are going up and down, because it really is a changing time for them with the bailout, with the troubles that they have, and then trying to get back on their feet. So right now there are a lot of opportunities, but you do want to examine them and make sure you know which one you're getting into and that it's a stable investment and you won't lose your money. And the last thing was the corruption aspect. There are not a lot, but there are illegal practices that go on over there, especially right now with the tough times and everyone, it's a little bit more pressure and a little harder to make a dollar, so people will take advantage of situations because, it's just a dire need and desperation. So there are investment opportunities and there are good things that can happen. You just have to know where to look, and it's also important, especially over there, who you know and who you can trust.